All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and Toronto Zoo virtual event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. Happy World Giraffe Day to everybody. I can't believe it's already World Giraffe Day. We're celebrating our amazing long-necked friends and doing so with the Toronto Zoo. It's also amazing it's already mid-June. The school year is disappearing so quickly, but we're so excited to be taking one more virtual field trip to the Toronto Zoo, and I can't think of a better animal and a better day. So I'm going to bring in Mary Ellen live from the zoo. She's going to start off with a land acknowledgement, and then we'll spend a little time learning about our amazing giraffes today. So here we go. Hey, Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen, are you able to hear me okay? I think we might have lost your audio. All right, let me try and send them a quick message here. We just had them with really nice audio, but it looks like we may have lost it. I'm going to see if they can exit and come back in. And then maybe that'll kick in their audio. Okay, there we go. They're exiting and they're coming back in. So we'll do a take two here. While we wait, there's a huge amount of comments here in the chat. I asked people to say hello, where they're joining from today. We've got Cambridge, we've got Fort Erie, Smithsville, where else? Guelph, Ontario, Toronto, Sudbury, Alberta, Calgary, San Jose, California, Kitchener, London. Oh, the list goes on and on and on. I think we have the zoo back with us. Let's try and bring Mary Ellen back in.
Hello, hello. Can you hear us now?
There we go. We have your sound now. Hey, Mary Ellen.
Hello. All right, let me turn the camera back around here to the true stars of the day. Let's see our giraffes in front of us here. So before we get started to learn all about these wonderful creatures, we just want to acknowledge that the land that we stand on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. And without further ado, I'd like to pass it off to Amy to do our first introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our World Giraffe Day celebrations here at the Toronto Zoo, where we are celebrating not only World Giraffe Day, but World Giraffe Week. Now, today specifically, we're celebrating because it is the longest day of the year, and of course, we're going to celebrate that for the tallest land animal. And they have these beautiful long necks. Mustari is coming in to say hello here. So I'm joined by not only Jason, but of course our giraffes, and we have a very special guest behind me here. So she is kind of the pioneer in giraffology. She was the first to go and study these amazing creatures in the wild. And so we have Anne Innisdag joining us today. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on World Giraffe Day again. You came last year. It's always a pleasure to have you. So we'll introduce you to our giraffes now. Obviously, Mustari is already making a great appearance. So she is our 8-year-old Maasai giraffe, and she is now a mom of 2. So her firstborn is with Jason over there. That's Amani, and she just turned 2 years old in May. She's growing up quite quickly, especially in the last year or so. She's kind of really taken on her new big sister role, which actually brings us to our newest little addition, who is hiding behind this wonderful willow browse here. So that's Matumaini. He is 4 months old in a couple of days, actually. And so that's Mustari's second offspring. Now, Amani over there, she was actually named a very special name, as Anne, you know. So her initials are the same initials as Anne. So Amani's full name is Amani Innisdag. So we gave her those initials, AID, just like Anne, to kind of honor Anne, all the work she did for giraffes way back when it was very difficult for women to do so. And Anne, of course, your huge thing is inspiring not only young people, but young women to get into science and work with animals and STEM. So we wanted to honor that and give Amani kind of that name. So from here, since we were talking about Matumaini, if you haven't already seen Mustari give birth, and when Matumaini was first born, I think we have a video of the little one when he was first born 4 months ago. I think we're going to play that now. Okay. All right, Jason, we're going to bring it back to you and learn some cool facts about giraffes.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Jason. I'm one of the giraffe keepers here at the Toronto Zoo. And I've got the privilege of a little segment that I apparently promised. 8 parts of the giraffe that you may not normally think of. So, I mean, 3 I think would have sufficed, but we're gonna rock out 8. And I that's all in jest because, of course, with an animal that looks like this, there's no shortage of amazing adaptations that have taken them to become this creature that we all know and love. So I'm going to try to get to 8 incredible parts of the giraffe that aren't the parts of the giraffe you normally think of, such as like maybe their long neck or their spots. So we're going to start with their carpus, we're going to start with the metacarpals, which is this long bone. So the bone from here to here is actually all the bones in your hand. Well, 2 of the bones in your hand fused into a tube. And that tube of bone is what supports the entire weight of the giraffe. And kind of another amazing feature of this bone is that as the giraffe gets older, it gets denser and denser. So if you can think of the cross section of a bone in the middle, as you probably may know, it's filled with bone marrow. But as these giraffes get older and older, that hollow part that holds the bone marrow slowly starts filling in with bone. And that's because as they get taller and they weigh more and more, there's just so much more stress of this massive animal on this one thin bone. Look at my hand compared to that bone, and she weighs much, much more than I do. So it's supporting a huge amount of weight on just such a spindly little bone. So it will get denser and denser to support these massive animals. So that brings me to number 2, right above it, the carpus. So a lot of the times we get asked, what are these callousy like pads on the giraffe? People often call them the knee of the giraffe because they're on the front leg and they bend in the same way as our knee does. But that's not a knee at all. That is actually the wrist of the giraffe. So if you think of the way your wrist moves, that joint moves in the exact same way. And as I previously mentioned, what's below it is what is akin to your hand. That's actually the wrist of a giraffe. And what makes it so unique is as they get bigger and older, it calluses over and makes this very hard pad that the giraffe can kind of bend down on when they're getting down. For a giraffe to lay down is a very awkward and complicated procedure. And it all starts with them putting all the weight of their entire body leaning forward on those joints. So as Matumani there has quite, there's a lot of hair on it. It's a little bit dirty from kneeling down out here on the pasture. But as they get older, you can see on Mastari there how it will callus over and make a protective pad. So if you want to think of it as their knee, which as I said, it's the wrist, but it would be like having a pair of knee pads on 24/7 for any time you had to kneel down. So those are the wrists of the giraffe. Okay, so that's number 2. We're going to work to number 3. So getting all the way up to the head of the giraffe, you have that long neck, which I mentioned I'm not allowed to use because it's too common, but they have a mane. So the giraffes have a mane. I can think of some other African animals that have mane. Zebras have a big, tall, stiff mane that protects other zebras when they're fighting each other for dominance in their herd. It helps them from bites. It protects them from a lion trying to take them down. They might grab onto the mane thinking it's the neck, and they can kind of sneak away with just losing a little bit of their hairdo. And also lions have a mane, and those animals have a mane to kind of show off. So a male lion has a mane, and it's used as a way to signal to the females that he's very healthy and he'll make a good leader for their pride. Well, why do the giraffes have a mane? That still seems to remain a bit of a mystery. So that's one thing I love about giraffes. It's an animal that's been kind of one of the most popular animals since people started recording anything about animals. And yet there's still so many mysteries for all you future conservationists and scientists out there to study on these giraffes. One of them is, why do they have this mane? It's not tall like a zebra's mane, so it wouldn't really provide them much protection from a lion, and a lion would have to jump pretty high to grab a hold of that mane. And it's not that impressive between males and females. It looks kind of similar. So there's not too much reason why, or there's not too much known as to why these giraffes would have a mane. It could be just a relic from their evolution. A predecessor had a mane and they kind of just kept it along. Or it might provide a function that we just don't know yet, which is what I think it is. A good theory that I often think of it is, if you see these guys in the wild, they're usually covered with birds, oxpeckers. And so for a little oxpecker to get all the way up, they're usually hopping all over the buffalo, rhinos, and giraffes. It would make quite a good ladder, and you often see them kind of perched upon that mane. So that's my theory anyways. And maybe some of you future scientists out there can prove me wrong, or even better yet, prove me right. So the next feature I'm going to get to is another one that's not very well understood. It's the whiskers on a giraffe. So Matumaini, he's given us a good close-up there. You can see on the giraffe, in between their nostrils, all along the front of their mouth, above their eyes, even here on the sides of their cheek, they have these long whiskers just the same way that a cat has whiskers. And so I don't know if anyone knows why a cat might have whiskers. A lot of the times they're in a dark environment, and it kind of gives them sensory perception of where they are. How big is this hole? Where am I sticking my face to catch this mouse? So the giraffes possibly have it. Well, they definitely have it to receive sensory information. Now, why would a giraffe need whiskers in the same way a cat would need whiskers? Well, these guys eat a lot of trees with spines on them. The acacia tree has some pretty awesome spines on it. And so when the giraffe dives its head in there to get its meal of leaves, it will close its nostrils up tight. It will close its eyes tight and flap its ears back to its head to protect those delicate organs from getting poked. And so those whiskers give them a little bit of extra information as to where they're putting their face when all their sensory organs are closed, because of course they need to eat those acacia leaves to get to be the big, strong animals that they are. And so on the subject of eating leaves, I'm not going to really be able to show this off very well, but at the base of the giraffe's skull, there's a pair of bones that we all have, every mammal has, but the giraffes are in such a way that they can point their head directly up into the sky. So if all of you watching at home kind of look straight up to the ceiling and stick your tongue out, it's almost impossible to do that. It feels very uncomfortable, but giraffes are able to reach straight up above themselves and stick their tongue out to get leaves even higher than they can reach at, at a maximum of 18 feet. Apparently they still need an extra foot to get the best leaves of them all. So that is yet another cool feature of the giraffes. And another one that they have on their heads, maybe Mastari would be good at showing us, is we all know that they have ossicones. These really cool features that they're not an antler, they're not a horn, they're an ossicone, which is ossified bone covered in skin with hair and blood supply and nerves. It's like much more alive than a cow's horn would be. But they have two atop their head that I think everybody knows. They have that hump between their eyes, which is called the medial horn, which probably, maybe you never thought of it, but now that I say it, you're probably like, yeah, okay, I get that. But they actually have another set. So Big Kiko, he's in the south paddock right now. He's got a great set, but on Mastari here, you can see that ridge of hair that looks like a little cowlick between her horns and the base of her mane. That is another ridge of bone, which on the females who do not really engage in head fighting the way that males do, it's just like a little ridge of hair. It's a little bit raised if you're able to touch it. But on males, that becomes two almost tennis ball shaped structures that are just even more weight for the head near those horns that they use for fighting, and more kind of contact spots from when they are sparring each other. So it is kind of like we all know that giraffes have these 2 ossicones on their head, but they actually have 5 when you really think about it. And I do believe that was 8. Somebody, I hope you guys were counting at home. I mean, I'm happy to continue on. And if it wasn't 8, I'm going to throw in a bonus one right now, which I am sure it's 8. So on little Amani here, I think everybody knows that giraffes have big, beautiful eyes. They have these big, long eyelashes, and everybody remarks on the giraffe's long eyelashes. Well, there's a reason. Oh, actually, I did not do 8 because I already remembered the one that I forgot. So they have another ridge right above their eye. You can see here are the eyelashes here, and then there's another ridge here of even more that help protect her from the sun and protect her from dust and sand blowing in the wind. So this would be the same way that we wear a baseball hat to kind of keep the sun out of our eyes. The giraffes had the same thing. They had those long eyelashes and a secondary brow that helps shield their eyes from that hot sun. And as you know, being the tallest animal, there's not much in the way of shade for such a skyscraper of an animal. Okay, and this is the last one, I promise, and this was supposed to be the 8th. But the giraffe also have a little travel pillow that they take everywhere they go. So if you look between the giraffe's front legs on all these guys, there's like kind of like a triangular pad. It kind of hangs down. It's almost a perfect triangle if you look at it in their brisket area. And what that is you can see Amani on the side there. Their belly hangs a little bit low. So when they're laying down in that sternal position, all the weight would be on their stomach. And being a ruminant with that 4-chambered stomach, that would be a lot of pressure on that big organ. That would not be good. So they have this little fat pad that's in a sense a little pillow that supports all the weight from their chest cavity. So it's on the sternum of the animal. And that takes a lot of the weight, which relieves the pressure on the animal when they're laying down. So those are 8 with a bonus of 9. Amazing parts of the giraffe that you may not normally think of. So now we are going to, so a big theme for this year is it kind of takes a community. It takes a community to help save giraffes, and it takes a community to help take care of giraffes. So we're going to now go to 2 videos that are about how this community, or 1 video of how this community helps take care of the giraffes right here at the Toronto Zoo. We are back. I hope you guys found that to be a very entertaining video. And, you know, as I mentioned before that, it takes a community to take care of these giraffes. So I want to give a shout out to everybody at the Toronto Zoo that helps take care of these giraffes. We have nutrition, facilities, like everybody that is working on this property, like whether directly or indirectly, directly or indirectly helps us with these giraffes. And through that helps us to help protect giraffes in the wild. And it was definitely a community that helped us come together for this World Giraffe Week. So I'd like to thank SaveTheGiraffes.org, WildNatureInstitute.org, the Ann Inistag Foundation, and the Junior, let me get this right here, Junior Giraffe Club, JuniorGiraffeClub.org, and of course TorontoZoo.com for all the giraffe activities. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over for a little intro on this amazing book.
This is an amazing book, and it tells a lot more information about giraffes. Jason did a fabulous job talking about body parts. This includes some things about giraffe behavior too, because it is a book about the girl who loved giraffes and became the world's first giraffeologist, of course, or Anne Innes, who was the first scientist to go and study giraffes in the wild. And it tells her story as well, and about the obstacles she had to overcome to do that back in the 1950s, and the wonderful work she's doing now to continue supporting giraffe conservation. And because I spent a lot of time with Anne writing this book, I was very convinced that I had to donate a portion of royalties to the Anne Innes Foundation as well. I believe they have copies of this at the zoo today in the shop, and also it's available on the Anne Innes Foundation website.
Amazing. Okay, so also in keeping with the theme of community with giraffes, I'd like to outline another few things about giraffes that's kind of cool about just in terms of community building. The giraffe itself is known as an umbrella species, meaning that a lot of people probably think giraffes are cool and, they would do anything they could to help save the giraffes. But in doing that, you're saving every animal and the habitat that the giraffe lives in. So the giraffe eats a lot of leaves, which means it makes a lot of poop, and that's a lot of food for things like dung beetles that help fertilizes the plants. That'll in turn help the other animals that live with them graze. The giraffes also have a crazy tick population. So there's lots of ectoparasites like ticks that love like a big animal like giraffes, lots to eat on them. So they actually provide a habitat for these animals themselves. Without the giraffes, I know not everybody loves ticks, especially here in Ontario, but they are another creature that lives there. And without the giraffes, they wouldn't exist. And there's another animal that kind of relies on the giraffe and the tick, and that's the yellow-billed oxpecker. So this, I think we all can imagine the oxpecker, the little birds in Africa that are on the backs of the animals, and they eat all the bugs that are feasting on them. So the yellow-billed oxpecker is one that really loves the giraffe. You'll often see them on there. As I said, I really believe that mane is just a ladder for them to get up to the head of the giraffes. But an interesting study was done that studied where do these oxpeckers go during the day, where do these oxpeckers go at night. And they found that these oxpeckers at night will seek out the giraffe because it's just pretty much the best Airbnb in town. So these oxpeckers will line up on the inside of the giraffe's legs. So if you imagine a rhino, awesome eland, or a buffalo, there's not many hiding spots on those big round circles of animals, but on the giraffes inside those back legs, you'll see them all roosting in there, all kind of clinging to the giraffe and hanging on. And from the side, I don't know if you can really see it too well, but the giraffes right here, there's a pocket. So essentially an armpit, that little ridge of, I'm not going to call it giraffe flab. What can I call it? Giraffe. It's like loose skin and tissue that helps them get that really long stride. So it's just kind of like a loosey-goosey armpit on the giraffe. And the oxpeckers will actually tuck themselves in there like a sleeping bag and spend the night. It's a warm and protected place. So these birds that may find themselves on a herd of buffalo during the day because there's many more of them and they're in the mud and there's lots of flies around them, will look for the giraffes for a safe place at night. So without saving the giraffes, we can't save the yellow-billed oxpeckers. And it's just really like it ties in how like one animal is connected to all. We're all connected together. Today is, of course, World Indigenous Peoples Day. And it's so fitting because where these giraffes live, it's really the people that live there. It's up to them to conserve and protect them. So what's up to us is to empower them and give them the resources they need. Just the same as here, this is their heritage and their legacy. And so we really love to support anything that helps empower people to take care of their natural spaces and the animals that they love. In fact, there was actually another research study that was the Wild Nature Institute supported, where they were just examining where these livestock are grazed, what kind of bushes are all around, and they want a nice open pasture for their animals to graze. So they're cutting down these invasive bushes. Well, they're actually native bushes, and his research showed that the giraffes and other browsers really rely on this as a food source, and they actually love it. So the people managing the livestock, they really didn't even know. They didn't even think of it. They're like, hey, these are in our way. We're going to take them down. So by supporting that research and providing that education, now they know, oh, we're going to leave that because the animals that we love, the giraffes, can eat these bushes and coexist with our livestock. So it's another one of those awesome conservation efforts where everybody wins, the animals and the people that share the land with them. So with that, I think we're going to hand it over to a question and answer period. Yeah. And yeah, whoever has a question, I guess we're doing that now.
All right. Awesome stuff. Well, thank you for all that great information, teaching us about the giraffe, all those amazing parts. Really, really cool. And it's really great to have a chance just to watch the giraffes doing their thing and get that nice up close and personal look today on World Giraffe Day. Very cool. Well, we have tons of questions coming in via YouTube and via Facebook. We have classrooms hanging out behind the scenes with us. So I'm just going to start going back and forth and start bringing some of our groups in. And I'm going to start with Miss Doyen's group. They are a group of grade 1 students hanging out with us. I'm going to bring them in front and center. Hey, grade 1s, how are you?
Hi! We have a question since it's so hot outside. How do giraffes stay cool on a really hot day?
Oh, well, that's an amazing question. And Amy's going to give me a dirty look because she wanted me to talk about the spots as one of the amazing parts of the giraffes. But I'm like, spots, they're so played out on a giraffe. But actually, these things are like solar panels on the animal. So if you would imagine the giraffe, underneath that skin, there's a series of blood vessels. And the giraffes can actually move the blood to the spots, which are dark. So when they're cold, they move the blood to the spots. The sun hits the spots. It warms up the blood. It warms up the giraffe. And it can get quite chilly in some of the places where these giraffes live. And then when it's very hot out, they move the blood away from those dark spots. So when the sun hits those dark spots, it doesn't in turn heat up their whole body. So that's, I think, the main way that these guys thermoregulate. In their skull, there's actually lots of open sinuses, or like lots of open places. So when they breathe, it can kind of cool the air, and that helps keep their brain a little bit cooler because, as you can imagine, their heads are very, very dark as well. And that's the thing that's closest to the sun, getting hit with that solar radiation. And a male giraffe, their head will get darker and darker and darker as they get older and more macho, because they want to show off that, hey, I can take the full brunt of the sun and still be a big, healthy male giraffe. So that is kind of how they deal with the hot weather out on the savannah and even here.
All right, so I'm going to grab a question here from our live chat. We've got Owen. Owen's in grade 4. And Owen would like to know, what is the giraffe's diet at the zoo? What are you feeding them at the zoo?
So the giraffes get quite a varied diet here at the zoo. Like I said, it takes a community. And so the keepers, nutrition department, our horticulture department, all have to work together to feed these giraffes. So Amy's showing you their pellets, which is actually Canadian Connection. This is a pellet that's designed for another awesome, huge animal that loves to eat leaves and branches, that lives right here in Canada, the moose. So the moose is like pretty much as close as you get to a giraffe right here in Canada. And they eat a pellet that is actually made from leaves and trees. So that's basically just a pelleted form of leaves and trees with all the vitamins that they need to make what they're eating here equivalent to what their diet would be in Africa. They also, our horticulture department and nutrition, provide us with fresh branches and leaves every day, summer and winter. Like the same amount that they get during the day in the summer will be ensiled, or basically fermented and preserved for the winter time. So their diet doesn't change based on the seasons. As you know, we live here in Toronto, not so many green leaves out in the winter for these guys. So we make sure that we produce enough for them. They'll even strip the bark off. So you see here, they've eaten the leaves, then they eat the small tender parts of the branches, like these tender shoots, and then they'll strip the bark off for all the sugars under there. So it's a complete diet. And they also get alfalfa hay, which is, it's not like grass you would feed your cow that's very high in silica and would wear their teeth down. They get a hay that's made of alfalfa, which is essentially a stick with leaves on it and the same nutritional profile of these things right here. So that's the diet. And before I go on to the next question, I want to just say, especially the teachers, make sure you stay for the last video, because there's a cool way that all you kids can help get involved with giraffes in the Junior Giraffe Club. So I'll go to the next question.
All right, we're going to bring in Miss Bendo's third graders. They're joining us from Guelph. How are we doing, third graders?
We're doing great. Okay, ask the question, Kobe.
Why do giraffes have such long necks?
Why do giraffes have such long necks? Okay, that is an awesome question. Much like the giraffe's mane and their whiskers, there's just so much about these animals that we don't know. So giraffes, the big group of giraffes, have been around, like these guys, for about 6 million years. But throughout history, there's been so many types of giraffes, and giraffes have evolved with long necks and then secondarily got short necks again and then got long necks again. So it's just such a huge jumbled mystery. But the giraffes, the common theory is the giraffes have a long neck so that they can reach the leaves high up on the tree. Well, when you actually go and research them in the wild, you see that oftentimes they're just eating from the middle of the tree. And things like our kudu that we have here at the Toronto Zoo and other animals, and eland, they'll actually go up on their hind legs to reach as high as a giraffe can in a tree. So it seems to be like not that much of an advantage. Now, the male giraffes, they use their head and necks for fighting. So the longer their neck is and the heavier their head is, remember I said about those ossicones, the males will get bigger and knobbier, and they have those two extra kind of bumps on the back of their skull. So the longer your neck and the heavier your head, simple physics and the way a pendulum works, you'll generate a lot of force for combating other males. So the other theory is that they develop these long necks for combat, and so they would have access to breed females. But I also don't think that there's anything to say that it can't also be a little of both, or maybe even something else that somebody else will figure out about these guys in the future.
All right, jumping back over to YouTube, we've got some more questions about giraffe stats here. So I'm going to toss two your way. Rachel in grade 5 wants to know what's the average height of a giraffe, and Samuel in grade 2 wants to know the average lifespan.
Okay, so average giraffe heights, like kind of the biggest that a male giraffe will get bigger than a female giraffe. And a big male giraffe, I think the world record is just over 18 feet tall. Our big guy Kiko, he's over 16 feet. He's under 17 feet. So he's a pretty big dude. And that's about as big as a giraffe gets. The females are a little bit shorter. Mastari is just over 14 feet. So I would say 14 to 15 feet for a girl and about 16 to 17 feet for a boy. And that's their average height. And there's all different types of giraffe. We have Maasai giraffes here. These are an endangered species. But there's actually all different types of giraffes, and some get a little bit taller and some stay a little bit shorter. Now, as for lifespan of the giraffe, it's super, super variable. So a giraffe is kind of mature around 3 to 4 if it's a female, about 5, 6, 7 if it's a male. And after that, they are considered adults. And, if they're here in the zoo, they're getting everything that they need. As I described, their nutrition is like top notch. They have the best medical care. They have keepers that are at their beck and call. So they can live to be quite old. Here at the Toronto Zoo, the giraffes live into their late 20s and even early 30s. But 20 is kind of like, that's an old giraffe. Now, having said that, a giraffe out in the wild, going through being chased by lions, sparring with other giraffes, they may only live to be 11, and still that will be a long, healthy life for that animal. There's kind of no right or no wrong answer. It's kind of the same for a lot of animals. Your life is variable, but 20 is a good average age for a giraffe.
All right, I'm going to bring in Miss Heather's crew. They are some grade 5, 6s, and are you guys a virtual crew?
It's a virtual crew. So I have them here. They're loving this. They've sent me a bunch of questions. So I'm going to kind of combine a few of them together. So we are wondering, do giraffes have any predators, and can they sense danger when a predator is coming? Like, how would they react if there was a predator coming for them?
That's a great question. So a lot of animals, like the way that they react, if you watch like a show on TV and a lion just kind of pokes its head out of the grass, they all kind of start and take off. And it almost seems like they have a sixth sense. They can kind of sense when the animal's near. I don't know if you guys have ever had the feeling like someone's behind you. So it just is like kind of how tuned in you are with your senses. And, a giraffe is an animal that has senses like no other. So their head is way up in the sky, which means they can gather a lot of information from a huge distance. They have incredible eyesight, as I can imagine you would guess, but also their ears. You see little Matu there? One ear's in one direction, listening to some work being done on our amazing orangutan environment, and the other ear was focused on his buddy Amy there. So they can hear really well, and they'll listen to two different spots at once. Their eyesight is incredible, and they have very good smell as well. So they can sense a predator coming from quite a distance. Now, a giraffe is so big that they will run, but if they have to, they will stay and fight because they're just so massive. And a lot of the times that means that there aren't many predators. Like You know, if you're a little Matu size, you're still a bit of a lion snack. But once you get to be Mastari size, you're pretty predator proof. Like everything that you have can kill a lion. You have 4 feet that can kick in any direction. You've got a head and neck with 2 massive ossicones that can smash. So you've got the 5 points of death for any predator that comes for you or your calf. So they will protect themselves. Now, there is predators for this animal though, and one of them is the lion. And the advantage that the lion has is that they work in numbers. So it's not just one lion trying to get a giraffe or their calf. It'll be a whole family. And one of the amazing things about lions and kind of not so amazing things about people is where these guys live now, we've paved roads everywhere. We want to go see them. We want to travel through the area. So these roads are now paved. And what the lions have learned is once the rain comes, these guys are on hooves. These hooves are hard as rocks. So when they get running, they just chase them to the road, and they will, on that slippery surface, lose their footing. The giraffe falls down. All your 5 weapons are now useless, and the lions will jump on them. So, you know, kind of not great for us for doing that. You know, I'm a giraffe guy, so I'm team giraffe, but you've also got to give lions credit. Animals are amazing. They'll learn and they'll adapt. So these lions have learned to use what we've put as a challenge to these animals to their benefit. So there are animals that will even tangle with such a dangerous creature as Mastari. Mastari's sweet, everybody.
Right. So we've been doing some great questions, but I think now might be a good time. I have a video here for the Junior Giraffe Club, and I think it might be a good time to share that. Maybe we can squeeze in a couple questions after that.
Awesome.
All right, here we go.
Hi, everybody. We're here to celebrate World Giraffe Day. We have members from the Junior Giraffe Club, which was founded by Dr. Anne Innes-Day, who is here, a Canadian, and the world's first Western giraffeologist. She went to Africa in the 1950s to study giraffes. We're here in Toronto. So we're here to celebrate World Giraffe Week and do everything we can to help our giraffe in the wild. And we thank Toronto Zoo so much for allowing us to be here.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm one of the facilitators with the Junior Giraffe Club. I just recently finished my undergrad degree and I'm going to South Africa to research giraffes in the wild and get my master's degree there. It's really important to study them in the wild because they are currently declining in their population numbers due to anthropogenic causes like habitat destruction and loss and droughts and climate change. So it's really important to not only see these animals in zoos but also it's great to see them in the wild and try and help their conservation efforts. So it's really good to raise awareness with Giraffe Week and Happy World Giraffe Day.
Hi, my name is Angele. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls. I grew up in a habitat surrounded by a lot of wildlife and was part of a conservation club in my junior school. So wildlife is really, really important to me. And that's why I've been working with the Anne Innes-Day Foundation to celebrate giraffes and to bring awareness to the endangerment of these species. We are looking forward to World Giraffe Day on Tuesday, and we're trying to get as many people involved in conservation, community involvement in terms of just keeping these lovely animals alive and with us for as long and long as possible. Happy World Giraffe Day. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Suza. I'm 8 years old, and I like giraffes because they're amazing, majestic animals. I created a fundraiser for my school to help them survive in the wild. It's a Just Down Day, and you should donate $2. Thank you. Happy World Giraffe Day!
Hello, I'm Rebecca, and this is Rachel, and we are members of the Junior Giraffe Club. I was the first club member back when it started, and I've enjoyed seeing it grow and develop over the past few years. Every month we hold meetings online, and we learn from experts in wildlife biology and conservation. And it's really fun, so I hope everyone joins.
I'm Claire. I'm 11 and a member of the Junior Giraffe Club. I really like giraffes because they're really unique and magnificent creatures. Happy World Giraffe Day.
All right, very, very cool. And I think we should definitely touch on how could students become members of the Junior Giraffe Club.
So I think if you go to juniorgiraffeclub.org, that'll have all the information. I think you just click and you sign up, and it's all there for you. And I encourage everybody to sign up. These are giraffe lovers from all over the world. It's just an amazing group. And if you love giraffes, it's the group to be in. So if we have time for any more questions, we'll squeeze them in.
Yeah, this is a great one. I think this one's fun. A few students are wondering about, what do giraffes do for fun? Do they play?
That's an awesome question. You know, all these mammals that we take care of, play is a form of learning. So I'm sure all you guys learn a lot when you're playing. I'm sure like play-based learning is big. And it's the same with these guys. They love to play. And that's one of the reasons that we absolutely love the fact that Mastari gave us these two beautiful calves so close in age, because little giraffes love to play with each other. What do? They kind of butt up against each other to like get the other one going, and then they'll run and kick and buck. So it's a lot of like running and chase based games. They have a tongue that is long and prehensile, and they love to manipulate things with that tongue. It's another way that they love to play. Little Matsu there was even about to start taking some selfies. So those are ways that the giraffe plays. Now, an adult is not as playful as a young giraffe, but we have lots of ways that we provide enrichment for them. And that's kind of food-based play and mental stimulation for those animals. And at the zoo, not in the wild, but at the zoo, we work with these animals with training. And training, it may sound like the giraffes have to go to school. What a bummer. Like, school was awesome for me. I loved school. I hope you guys all love the classrooms that you're in. And these guys are the same. They think it's so cool. When they come up, we give them an area where they train. They come right up and they think it's awesome that they get to learn something new, use their minds. They actually love it. So that's another way that you can consider the way a giraffe plays.
All right, let's squeeze in one or two more camera classes here for their final questions. Let's see if our grade ones have another one for us. I think they do.
They're just sneaking out for recess. We were wondering, how fast can giraffes run?
So a giraffe can run about 35 kilometers an hour. But having said that, that's kind of like a giraffe in its prime. Like Kiko's in our south paddock right now. Once you get to be a big, giant skyscraper like him, you kind of plod along. And, it's because you're so much bigger, you can't really run as fast. But also, when you're as big as Kiko, the motivation for running is just gone. Like, a lion's not going to really want to, like, really, lion, you want to try to eat me? Like, I'm not going to run away. I can kick you. So, these giraffes still get going at a very good clip. But kind of the bigger you are, you can kind of, like, pump the brakes on running and start engaging in fighting. The awesome eland, which we also work with here in Outer Savannah, they're the same. They're the biggest, like these are the biggest, the tallest animal in the world. The eland are the biggest antelope in the world. And, they can run kind of fast, but they're the same. They're like, a lion wants to come tangle with me. I've got, a ton of weight and 2 horns. Let them come. So, the bigger you are, you don't really have to run as fast.
All right. Very cool. Third graders, do you have a final question for us?
How much neck bones do a giraffe have?
Sorry, we didn't quite hear that one. Could you repeat that one?
Okay. How much neck bones do giraffes have?
Oh, that's a great question. So how many bones are in the giraffe's neck? Well, it may surprise you to hear it, but they have the same number of bones in their neck that you have in your neck. So there are 7 bones in the giraffe's neck. The only difference is they're so much longer. So each one of those bones is about the size of my entire forearm. And the ball and socket joints on them are just much more open than ours. Like where our neck is much more restricted in movement than the neck of this little one and that big creature there. Little is relative when you're a giraffe, I guess.
All right. Thanks, bud. Great question. And we'll check in with our virtual crew one more time. Miss Heather's class, do you have one more question for us? Oh, can you grab the mic, Miss Heather?
Sorry, I grabbed my Zoom mic, but not
Okay.
this one. Okay, a lot of our questions were answered, but there was one. They're wondering if there are other days for other animals as well that we can be celebrating other than World Giraffe Day.
There is, and I actually even remember once seeing online like a calendar being sold of all the animal days. I know maybe it was even last week was World Camel Day, which is like, these were called camel leopards. People thought it was a leopard and a camel smashed together. It was just Camel Day, another big, huge, amazing animal with a long neck. And so every animal has its day, every person has its day. But I mean, like, you know, when it was just Father's, every day should be Father's Day. Every day should be Giraffe Day. We don't need a special day to celebrate these guys. And in fact, that's why we've kind of transitioned to World Giraffe Week, so we can get even more awareness for these guys. But there's definitely, I'm sure if you Google your favorite animal, there is a special day just for that animal, with maybe even a t-shirt to wear on that day too.
There's also lots of videos with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and the Toronto Zoo. We tend to do our Awareness Day with our animals, so stay tuned. They come out once a month during the school year.
All right, and we love those days and those events, bringing the classrooms in. It's always a lot of fun. I know we're getting to the end of our time here, and I have one more fun little clip for World Giraffe Day, but I think it might be a nice clip to end off with. So maybe we can start off with just a huge shout out to all of our classrooms. We had close to 200 classrooms register to hang out with us today, which was awesome. So thousands and thousands of students, so many saying hi in the chat. It just got out of hand. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody's questions, but I'm glad that everybody's thinking about giraffes today. A big shout out to our camera classrooms. It's always great to get a peek into your classroom and see your students, and to the whole team at the zoo. And as well, of course, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for really highlighting our amazing giraffe friends today. It was so great to see them.
It was great seeing all you guys. I'm glad you guys are invested and engaged in giraffes right here where we are. The best thing you can do to save giraffes is just protect the environment around you and do all the good things that you do to protect your own environment. And yeah, it was great having Anne here with her little namesake and being with our giraffes, and Amy, the top-notch giraffe trainer here at the Toronto Zoo. Thank you guys.
All right, so I do want to share this link here to Zoo Life TV if you do want to see the family live. And we are also going to sign out with this fun little World Giraffe Day video. So here we go. Thanks so much to everybody for being with us live today.